What is happening, guys? How are you doing? This is Rob of Rule of Two Review. Welcome back to the channel, and welcome back to another mini Q&A. Yes, it's true, we're doing another Q&A. I haven't done one of these in a super long time, and I definitely used to do these a lot more often. Traditionally, I like to do the super long ones, where I have like 10 or 15 questions. They're usually like 45-minute long videos. They are a ton of fun. I get to interact directly with you guys, answer your questions, give you shout-outs, and it becomes kind of like a personal little exchange a little bit. And I love them. Haven't done one in a while. I just had the random kind of hair up my butt today, and I was like, you know, I should do like some kind of Q&A, maybe just 3 or 4 questions I'll grab. So I put the call out on Twitter for a couple of questions, and I grabbed 4 of them that I thought were really good in just a couple of hours since I posted that tweet. And we're going to jump into those. Really quickly before we do, though, I just wanted to give one quick shout out to, you probably noticed this here, DMC5, Devil May Cry 5. Holy frickin' cow. This is the game that I'm playing right now, currently. It just came out over this past weekend. I've been tweeting about it a little bit as well. And it's amazing. It is pretty badass, you guys. Everyone's talking about it. I'm sure a lot of you guys might be playing it or following other people who are talking about it. And, you know, I don't want to spend too much time on it. I just want to say it's a great action game. In the world where we have games like Devil May Cry, Platinum Games' stuff like Bayonetta and whatnot, it's definitely one of the best. You know, I don't have a super extensive history with Devil May Cry. I played a bit of the first one. I played a bit of the third. Never played Devil May Cry 2 or 4. And I did randomly play all the way through DMC, the kind of reboot on the 7th gen. And I actually loved that game. I think it was divisive at the time. Nowadays, people kind of look back on it fondly. But I loved it. I thought that was great. In fact, I actually so far prefer that even to Devil May Cry 5, to be honest, which might be controversial. But at the end of the day, DMC5 is fantastic. There's a couple of things that aren't perfect, but it's such good action. Great visuals. You get 3 characters to pick between, and it's just awesome ass-kicking action. So, I don't know. I highly recommend DMC5. Okay, with that out of the way, let's go ahead and jump into the 4 questions that I picked from Twitter today. We'll start off with the first one coming from Joey Ferris at Ferris Wheel Pro on Twitter. What is up, Joey? Joey, a lot of you guys know, quick shout out. He works with the Commonwealth Realm, one of the best Nintendo channels out there. And also, of course, Ferris Wheel Productions on YouTube. So, what is up, buddy? Thanks so much for asking a question. And Joey asks me, I know you said on Twitter that you would probably be done with YouTube by the time Metroid Prime 4 comes out. I did say that. It won't be 4 years from now, sorry. I don't agree with that. But even if you're done, would you be willing to make an exception for Prime 4's release/reveal? So, great question. He's referring to a tweet that I made, I don't know, like a month or so ago, not too long after the delay of Metroid Prime 4. So, to clear the air a little bit on what that whole thing is about and what I'm trying to say and how it fits into Joey's question, I did say on Twitter that at this point, with the delay of Metroid Prime 4, I kind of had this epiphany where I very likely won't be doing YouTube or running Rule of Two Review by the time the game comes out. And that is because I personally do feel that Metroid Prime 4 is really far away. Joey, I love your optimism, buddy. I appreciate the fact that you don't think it's going to be 3 or 4 years from now. You're probably thinking somewhere in the range of 2 years, I'm guessing. And that would be great. I mean, I would love the game to come out that fast, and anything is possible. But my gut feeling just tells me that game is 3-4 years away. Maybe longer. I don't know. You know, I've said how I feel like Metroid Prime 4 is going to probably release on the next generation Nintendo console, or at least be cross-generational, to the point where that's how far into the future it is. If they truly started from ground zero, if there's stuff that they're not telling us, so that they're not maybe starting from scratch, maybe they're starting with a bit of a head start, then it's a different story. But I'm going off of the assumption they are starting from ground zero. All concept, all gameplay, all assets, graphics, engines, everything they're doing from the beginning. So I think it's very far from now. And as far as me doing YouTube, I mean, I don't know. I guess it's just something that I know I won't do forever, you know? Shocker. It's not my job. Most of you guys know I'm not a full-time YouTuber. This is just a passion and a hobby and a thing I do on the side. Just for fun is running Rule of Two Review because I just love talking about video games and Nintendo, and you know, I used to want to do movie stuff, and it just kind of turned into a video game focused thing. And so I just know that over the course of, I don't know, I'm guessing maybe next couple of years, I just eventually will probably stop doing it for a variety of reasons. It could be work and my band just take up too much time. You know, I just might lose the free time to be able to do it. My passion might burn out, you know, not so much in a negative way, but I just might, in a year or two, for all I know, maybe I'm like, I don't really like doing YouTube anymore. I just want to stop doing it. Just whatever. I mean, I don't feel that now, so I'm not trying to make you guys think Rob's going to quit sometime soon. I don't have that feeling in me now. I love doing it. But one day, I know myself. 1, 2, 5 years from now, I will decide I'm probably good on YouTube. I just might stop doing it. And because I think Metroid Prime 4 is 3 or 4 or 5 years away, there's a very good chance that I will decide to stop doing YouTube before Metroid Prime 4 releases. Now, after that whole long-winded thing, to more directly answer Joey's question, if I stop doing YouTube, would I come back at the time that Metroid Prime 4 is revealed or releases or whatever? I would say that if by the time Metroid Prime 4 releases, or either, okay, whether it's revealed or released, and I'm just not doing Rule of Two Review anymore, I would say that there is a pretty good chance that, yeah, I might just pop back on and make one video, because in a world where I do decide to stop doing YouTube and Rule of Two Review, I would not delete my channel or delete my videos. I told myself that a long time ago, because it's a great body of work I feel like I've created, and I'm proud of it, which means Rule of Two Review would exist. Hopefully, if I stopped doing it, a lot of you guys would stay subscribed to the channel, which you might not. And so, if it's revealed, I might pop on and be like, oh my god, I haven't talked to you guys in forever, but I just want to talk about Metroid Prime 4. Okay, bye. Or, if the game releases and I'm already done, I might do a review. I feel like I would owe people at least a discussion about Metroid Prime 4, the actual game, because so much of my audience over the past 2 years had been built on the idea of Metroid because I've talked about it so much. So, either way, a very long answer here to Joey's question because I kind of needed to give the preface on what I said, but yeah, I mean, I would hate to deprive you guys of me, Rob, and Rule of Two Review discussing Metroid Prime 4 when we actually see the game and actually play the game, because I know I'll have tons to say, so I would probably come out of retirement just for it. Next question comes from Joey AD Games, at Joey AD Games on Twitter. Thanks so much, buddy, for the question. And he asked me, hey, 2 Joeys in a row, what are the odds? Are you guys actually the same person? Anywho, Joey asks me, what's your reaction to the Google console controller and the idea of Google developing a console in general? So this has been a pretty big story the past couple of days, and I was going to make a video on it specifically, but I've just been kind of too busy and didn't get a chance to. I'm sure a lot of you guys have seen the images of the controller that's been making the rounds the last couple of days. Apparently, Jason Schreier of Kotaku said that it's actually a picture of an image from like a couple of years ago. I have not looked into that. I've just seen a couple of tweets, so I'm not talking any facts here. I'm just saying. But if we just bring it back to the idea, there has been the image of the controller, and there's so much talk about Google entering the console space in some way. So if I was to talk about the controller, if the controller is new and not something from years ago, everyone's hating on the controller. And the reason I'm not down on it isn't because it isn't ugly, because it is kind of ugly. But the reason I'm okay with it is because I just know that sometimes the look of a controller can be deceiving. And I find it hard to believe a company, any company, would release a brand new controller into the market nowadays and not already know that it's comfortable enough to get the job done and that the average person likes holding it. They're not just going to make an ugly design and not have any human test it and hold it and say, yes, it's comfortable or no, it's not, and then throw it out into the world. No, people have been holding that controller for however long since they've been developing it, and they already know. Most people say they like it or they don't. And I'm assuming that people say they like it if that's the controller they're going to use. So I get that it looks stupid, but I just don't believe a company is going to be dumb enough to put an uncomfortable controller on the market. So I'm just going to assume, could be dangerous, but I'm going to assume that it's a comfortable controller. The idea of Google entering the market, I mean, Google, Apple, Valve, there's been so many conversations about these companies over the years. There's a lot of smoke to this fire with Google the last couple of weeks and months. And so I'm starting to think that there's probably something to it. There might be something more concrete out there that, again, I don't know of. Right now, I do believe it's mostly just a rumor, and they haven't shown anything for sure. So I guess here's the thing. Microsoft is in such a weird place. I feel like we might be losing the Xbox dedicated home console machine over the course of the next few years, or maybe in the next generation or two. and Xbox is going to become a ubiquitous platform like Steam. That's kind of what I think is going on there potentially. And maybe Google could swoop in and sort of replace them, because we would then lose one of the three players if Microsoft does that. And suddenly we don't have an Xbox, a Nintendo, and a PlayStation. So yeah, I could see Google being one of the companies to do it. They've got the money, they've got the capital, they've got the name brand. They could make it happen. But I also feel like what they might be doing is something more akin to an Ouya, or something that's really just a streaming device controller thing that's going to just do weird, simple mobile and Android games. I mean, people have said this, and I think that there could be something to this as well. I don't 100% know that Google would be trying to enter as a direct competitor to Nintendo, Sony, and Microsoft, and be a company trying to get games like Grand Theft Autos and Red Dead Redemptions and Call of Duties and Devil May Cries. I just don't know if Google's trying to make that kind of box. If so, yes, they're a rich, powerful company, but it's a dangerous proposition because the market is so tight, I feel. This actually is making me realize this conversation probably does warrant its own video, because I'm starting to go in a lot of directions here. So to not make this any longer, I think it's interesting. I'm willing to see if there's any truth to this, and if so, I could see Google going a couple of directions and maybe being more successful going one way than going the other. Next question comes to us from Bob Gray at HobbitGan74. What is up, Bob? He asks me, at the end of this year, what top 5 games would have sold the most copies worldwide, specifically on the Switch? My guess, 1 Pokemon, 2 Animal Crossing, 3 2D Zelda, 4 Mario Maker, Mario Maker 2, and 5 Luigi's Mansion, and wild cards he feels would be Doom Eternal and Dragon Quest XI. So, it's tricky because I think you were trying to ask any games on any console, but then you made yours kind of specifically about the Switch, so I think that's what you want to hear me talk about, is what do I think will be the best-selling Switch games. Tough to say because it's so early in the year, and even though we know of a lot of great games this year, I think we're going to also get a lot of games at E3, you know, and for all we know, Bayonetta 3 also becomes a 2019 title. Obviously, I discussed recently how I think it very likely could be 2020, but at this point, the jury's out. We don't know, so it could go either way. However, this is a pretty simple question to answer overall, and I think that you actually did pretty good on your list. I don't believe in the wild cards. I don't think that any third-party company or third-party game is going to sell enough in 2019 on the Switch to crack into the top 5, because there's so much great first-party stuff coming from Nintendo that all of those are just going to kill it. So I think that the best and second best-selling games are actually going to be Pokemon and Mario Maker. I think Mario Maker 2 is really going to do gangbusters on the Switch. So 1 is probably going to be Pokemon, 2 is probably going to be Mario Maker 2, which is funny because it's 2 games I'm not really very interested in at all. Although I did say I am going to play Pokemon for my first time ever when I was on the Spawncast, and I'm sticking to that. I'm not really excited about Pokemon, but hey, I'm willing to give it a shot, and I told the Spawncast audience I would do it, so damn it, I'm going to stick to it. So I think those would be the 2 best-selling games. The 3rd and 4th best, I think, are likely to be, I feel like I want to say, it's either Animal Crossing or Zelda Link's Awakening, and I don't know which one's going to do. Probably Zelda. I feel like Zelda might be the 3rd, and then Animal Crossing might be the 4th. And then coming in at number 5 is probably going to be Fire Emblem. Unless there's a crazy wild card first-party game we don't know about that Nintendo reveals at E3, I feel like that's your top 5. Pokemon, Mario Maker, Link's Awakening, Animal Crossing, and Fire Emblem. If I had to put money on it, that's my top 5 for the year. And the last question for today comes to us from Brian at BrianJedi82. What is up, Brian? He asks me a really great question. I really like where this question is going and what he's trying to get to here. So he asks me, DMC5 pretty much stuck with the franchise's roots. Would you have preferred God of War to stick to its franchise's roots, or do you think the change in gameplay and narrative was for the best? Really, really, really good question, and I had to do a lot of thinking about this. So, you know, obviously he brings up Devil May Cry 5, which I have right here and talked about. He says it sticks to the franchise's roots. I'm not really familiar enough with the series to know if that's true or not, but I totally believe you. Seems legit to me. I have no reason to question that. But then he asks about God of War. One of my favorite games of like the last, I don't know, freaking 10 years, God of War on the PS4 is so good. I'm also a huge fan of the old school God of War. I absolutely adore the mindless button mashing, Chaos Blade swinging Kratos games, you know, with the fixed camera that moves as you walk through the world. I freaking love those games, and I love that gameplay. And I would not have been sad if they continued down that path. In fact, I was actually nervous about God of War when I first saw it, and I saw that it wasn't that. I was like, man, I mean, it looks cool, but why would you change it? It was so great the way it was before. What are you doing this weird story thing like The Last of Us with God of War? I just didn't really understand it. But now I've played the game, and it absolutely blew me away. It blew away most people. So it's tricky because if I was to pick where I want God of War to go in the future, I kind of do want it to go back a little bit more to what it was. You know, I don't want it to maybe revert back 100%. I'd like it to keep some of the elements of this new game and what they did, but I do want it to kind of go back to just racking up scores and crazy combos and doing the old upgrade tree the way it used to be and just all that stuff. I just kind of love that. I'd love for them to go back to a lot of that. But I think for this God of War, at the end of the day, I think they made the right choice because it's just kind of where a lot of gaming is going right now. There is a way to do cinematic gaming the wrong way, and there's the way to do it the right way. And to me, what they did with God of War was absolutely the right way. It's like the best way they could have done it, actually. And, as I've discussed before, they managed to do that. They took what was just a mindless arcadey, just button-mashing gameplay kind of game, and they turned it into something with more soul, more narrative, like you said, a lot more story, a lot more dialogue, and a kind of a slower paced game, but they also managed to do that and keep incredible gameplay intact. It is a gameplay first kind of experience. Even though I was worried it was going to be a story first kind of experience, I was like, I don't want that. But they turned out to actually really focus heavily on the gameplay. There's so much to do. There's a huge open world aspect to the game. Lots of enemies to fight, lots of upgrading and experience and secrets and treasures and all this stuff. And so much combat. So much. And the fact that they found this amazing marriage and made it so that the story didn't detract, it only added. It was an incredible story. There was so much spectacle and scope to the game. I mean, I could just go on and on like I'm reviewing the game. So at the end of the day, I think that's where a lot of gameplay is going right now, or a lot of video games are going. And honestly, I think, coming off of the last generation where Uncharted, I think, was leading that charge, and then we've seen some sort of copycat experiences come and go through that. I think the next step in that, really, after Uncharted and The Last of Us, is God of War. And it's great because that's also a non-Naughty Dog team behind that game. And that's really cool too, because for a while it almost seemed like, for the most part, is it just Naughty Dog who's knocking this out of the park and most people can't really keep up? And I think that what we saw with God of War is that, yeah, there are other teams that can do that, you know. And there are other games that I'm a big fan of that are story-like. Until Dawn is fantastic. Detroit Become Human is fantastic. My girlfriend and I do love those games as well. But those are less about gameplay and more about story, whereas God of War is the perfect marriage of both. And so, to get down here to my summary to answer your question is, I love the old God of War. I want a lot of those elements to return, but I do think they made the right choice with the new God of War, and I hope that they keep this going, but maybe bring back some of the cool stuff from the old school God of War. And with that being said, that's a wrap. Those are the 4 questions that I got to discuss with you guys today. Again, thank you guys so much to everyone who asked questions. Sorry if I wasn't able to get to it. I only wanted to pick a handful of them. Of course, if you want to be a part of the conversations and these Q&As and stuff in the future, definitely follow me on Twitter. I am crazy active on Twitter. Seriously, we will always have a chance to interact. You will always get an idea of what I'm talking about. I talk about a lot of movie stuff too, and just life and my band and music. It's mostly gaming, but you get just kind of the whole picture. So definitely please follow me on Twitter, and hopefully you enjoyed this. Again, thank you to everyone who asked questions. This is a lot of fun, and the video is a wrap. So thanks, of course, as always, for tuning in, guys. This is Rob of Ro2R, and I'll catch you next time on another video.